Welcome back, everyone, after our break in the first session of our conference. So far, so good. I am very excited to announce our next speaker. Dr. Roula-Maria Dib is the founding director of the London Arts-Based Research Centre, the founding editor of the literary and arts journal Indelible, and the creative producer of the literary event series, Indelible Evenings, as well as Psyche Creative, a virtual salon for researchers and creatives with a background in Jungian psychology. She is an award-winning literary scholar, poet, and editor, and a recipient of the UK Global Talent Visa, as well as the British Council's 2022 Alumni Awards for Culture and Creativity. Her research interests are at the interstices of literature, art, modern poetry, and poetics, autoethnography, and Jungian psychology. She is the author of a poetry collection, Simply Being, and Jungian Metaphor in Modernist Literature, which was shortlisted as a finalist for the International Association of Jungian Scholars Book Awards. Formerly, she was a professor of English at the American University in Dubai.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rula, and I am so happy and honored to be here with all of you tonight. So, first of all, thank you so much to the tireless, talented, and incredible Galatea for putting together such an amazing inaugural conference with so many wonderful, fascinating voices and attendees. My presentation tonight is titled Pygmalion's Awakening, Redefining Knowledge Through Arts-Based Research. And as I have seen, and as I hope you will see too, arts-based research in its nature, it fully aligns perfectly well with Kosmos Institute's education model, which emphasizes the integration of diverse disciplines, fostering creativity, and exploring transformative learning processes. The presentation's focus today is on dissolving otherness through arts-based research, and which I also find mirroring Cosmos Institute's commitment to holistic, interdisciplinary approaches that bridge art, science, and philosophy. By highlighting the unification of creator and creation, as well as the transformative potential of arts-based research, the presentation today hopes to resonate with the Institute's mission to cultivate innovative knowledge-making and meaning-making practices that transcend traditional boundaries. So I'm going to start with a quote by Patricia Levy from her book, Method Meets Art. Arts-based research practices have emerged out of the natural affinity between research practice and artistic practice, both of which can be viewed as crafts. And I would also like to kickstart with Pygmalion's story. The story of Pygmalion and Galatea is quite well known. What we know about it is that Pygmalion, a famous sculptor, falls in love with his own creation and wishes to give her life. This simple and imaginary concept is actually the basis from a psychological understanding of behavior. And particularly, it's been looked at as a reflection of male behavior, patriarchy, and it has also been looked at as the basis of the psychological theory of the Pygmalion effect. It was also an inspiration for many creatives, such as artists, playwrights, filmmakers, and writers who base their creative work on Pygmalion's story. But what is the story? What are the details? And how can we look at it through a new perspective, the perspective of arts-based research? First of all, the story. Pygmalion was king of the island of Cyprus, human son of the sea god Poseidon. So he was also a man who gave to every one of his ivory statues a lifelike appearance. His deep devotion to his art made his sculptures the only physical beauty he knew. And in fact, Pygmalion actually despised and shunned people, especially women, because he found solace only in his craft. Now, one day Pygmalion carved the statue of a woman of unparalleled beauty. She looked so gentle and divine that he could not take his eyes off the statue. Enchanted with his own creation, and in a moment of inspiration, he named the figurine Galatea, meaning she who is white like milk. He draped over her the finest of cloths and bedecked her with the most dazzling of ornaments, adorned her hair with the prettiest of flowers, gave her the priciest gifts, and kissed her as a sign of adoration. Pygmalion was obsessed and madly in love with his creation. And the spell that this lifeless woman cast on him was too much to resist, and he wished every day that she become his wife one day. And he would spend nights and days staring upon his beautiful creation. And meanwhile, the celebration of goddess Aphrodite was fast approaching and preparations were well underway. On the day of the festival, while making offerings to the goddess, Pygmalion prayed with all his heart and soul, beseeching the goddess that she turn his ivory figurine into a real woman. Touched by his deep veneration, Aphrodite went to the workshop of Pygmalion to see his famous statue by herself. She wanted to see what the big fuss was about. When she looked upon the statue of Galatea, she was amazed by her beauty and liveliness. Looking better at it, Aphrodite found that, Galatea actually looked a little like her in beauty and perfection. So, satisfied, she granted Pygmalion his wish. Upon returning home, Pygmalion went straight to Galatea, full of hope. At first, he noticed a flush on the cheeks of the ivory figurine, but slowly it dawned upon him that this could mean that Aphrodite had actually heard his pleas. Unable to restrain himself, he held Galatea in his arms and kept her strongly. What had been cold ivory turned soft and warm, and Pygmalion stood back in amazement as his beloved figurine came into life, smiling at him and speaking words of admiration for her creator. Their love blossomed over the days as Galatea taught Pygmalion so much about love, life, beauty, the body, and even human connection. And before long, wedding vows were exchanged between the two lovers, with Aphrodite blessing them with happiness and prosperity. The happy couple later had a son, Paphos, who later founded the city of Paphos in Cyprus. Some say that they also had a daughter named Mitharme. However, while all this is relevant regarding so many translations of and inspirations by the myth of Pygmalion, I seek to highlight another interesting angle from which we can view this myth. The myth of Pygmalion offers valuable insights into the nature of art-space research. And in this narrative, the renowned sculptor crafts Galatea and initially perceives her as a distinct creation, an other. However, as the story unfolds, he realizes that she is, in fact, an embodiment of his own psyche and a reflection of the world. This raises a crucial question for art-based research. How does this dissolve the concept of otherness? While many disciplines explore art and creativity as subjects, they are ignored as vehicles for generating knowledge. Conventional pedagogy tends to maintain a separation between the learner and the subject matter, or the artist and the craft. This division results in traditional research methods operating as distinct systems, creating a gap between the learner and the learned, or the artist and its other. Arts-based research disrupts this traditional paradigm, ushering in a transformative shift that redefines the relationship as a Pygmalion and Galatea one. Unlike mainstream research, which often perpetuates a subject-object split, arts-based research unifies them into a cohesive operational system. This paradigmatic shift challenges conventional notions of knowledge and reshapes the dynamic between the creator and the creation, eliminating the inherent otherness that traditional research methods may inadvertently reinforce. By embracing alternative paradigms of knowledge making and meaning making, arts-based research bridges the gap and unites the creative process with the pursuit of knowledge. And how is that? Well, here are some parallels. So we realize that the love of Pygmalion towards his creation, Galatea, was a moment of dissipating otherness. It is the creator's realization of his at-oneness with his creation. The fact that in her lifelike form, Galatea taught Pygmalion so much can also mean that the learning process was also at play during the creation of his statue. Knowledge of anatomy, the human body, and mannerisms, such as is known about sculptors. I mean, he technically made a person and had to know the recipe for this before bringing this person into life. So we thought, would that be similar to marrying academic research language with arts practice? And with that, why not unite the creator with the created? Pygmalion certainly communed with his creation and became one with her. The unity was, of course, a productive one too. So 1 + 1 = 3 as they lived happily ever after, and they gave birth to a completely new culture that came with Paphos, their son. And while many see Pygmalion as a figure of dominance or the creator who owns his creation, we can actually question this by seeing the reverse. It was actually Galatea who led the process, as they were both equally under the connective spell of Aphrodite. And she also led her creator throughout the making process, and also later on taught him so much about life, love, and the body. So she was the leader all through. Now, conventional, sorry, I think I lost my page here. Right. So Galatea, the work of art, was Pygmalion's psyche made autonomous. So she was a piece of his psyche, but she was made autonomous later on once brought into the world and blessed by Aphrodite. It is both a piece of his personal psyche and the collective universal, archetypal one, autonomous enough to exist as an independent being. Pygmalion did not merely make an artifact, he created a new life, and he made new meaning. And this was only achieved through connecting or uniting with the artifact or the other. If Pygmalion represents the science, which is the plotting, the measuring, etc., stuff that technical things that sculptors do, then Galatea can represent the art itself. Hence, there was a marriage between the science of making and the art itself, or between creator and creation. This is an important notion to bring to light, especially that, as Professor Susan Rowland mentions in her book, Jungian Arts-Based Research and the Nuclear Enchantment of New Mexico, that art has been largely separated from other meaning-making activities such as religion and scholarly inquiry and disciplines. After all, we could also connect this to what Albert Einstein said, that creativity is intelligence having fun. And historically, we know of many artists who have changed the world through the knowledge they came across via their crafts. So from left to right, we've got Leonardo da Vinci, who contributed to anatomy by drawing the human body, and he also founded aerodynamics through his sketches of birds and the flying object. The groundbreaking physicist James Maxwell also wrote poems inspired by his theories and vice versa. Third image is that of Beatrix Potter, who was the natural scientist behind children's books featuring animals such as Peter Rabbit. And Ada Lovelace was actually the one who invented the first computer program as a creative writer. And that's just to name a few. So lots can happen when intelligence is having fun. Blurring the line between science and creativity is at the heart of many arts-based research activities. Sean McNiff, a prominent figure in the realm of arts-based research, theorist with a distinct Jungian perspective, intriguingly employs aesthetics as an epistemological approach to harmonize the realms of art and science. While creative imagination may be guided by emotion, McNiff emphasizes that it is not merely a personal product. He underscores the shared nature of aesthetic appreciation, noting that the beauty conveyed through artistic traditions is often collectively experienced. Art, as a testament to centuries of aesthetic responses, provides a platform to explore the collective priorities of science through the individual expressions of trained artists. And I am quoting Susan Rowland from the same book again. Because this interplay between subjective and objective elements takes place all the time within the creative process, it is foolish and limiting to set them as antagonists. The introspective feeling of beauty does not have to be separated from the empirical conditions being experienced. Art and science are integrated into every aspect of our disciplines. So we also want to bring to light the idea of thinking in materials, which was Carter's idea, where material thinking is the discourse of creative research. That's a quote by Paul Carter. And also where art meets method is how we encourage and foster learning, showing how simply doing the art is doing the research. And we have many examples of people who had actually done the art while doing the research. For example, Santiago Ramón y Cajal, known as the father of modern neuroscience, was also an artist. And John James Audubon documented the birds in the US when illustrating the book Birds of America, all the while studying their behavior and researching their migratory habits. And here we've got Galileo, who was a poet and author as much as he was a scientist, and of course Einstein, who played the violin. And the list goes on and on and on. So to see science and the arts as opposites or others is quite impractical, actually, as the interplay between them is a constant feature in the creative process, and also in the scientific process as well. The idea of thinking in material brings to mind what Sean McNiff mentions about this fruitful relationship of art and science, that both art and science are thoroughly empirical and immersed in the physical manipulation of material substances that were carefully observed. And this is also to bust the myth of the subject-object split through transdisciplinarity. A great metaphor for arts-based research is that of alchemy, which we like to see as an early expression of arts-based research. It is transdisciplinary in nature. It is symbolically and artistically expressed through images and artwork, and it entails doing as much inner work as outer work. Pygmalion's alchemical gold, the proverbial gold that he made, was the life that he was able to create for both Galatea and his own transformed self. In Jungian arts-based research, during the creative process, the art that one is working on for a long time actually materializes into a living archetype. So the artist is actually working on a part of themselves. It also highlights that working with symbols and symbolic images is knowledge generating and transforming. The symbol points out towards possibilities rather than definite meanings, and because of this unfixed, uncertain nature, when manifested in material form, it becomes a psychic event rather than psychic content. And this was the case with Galatea, who was a dream, a wish, and later on in Pygmalion's prayers to Aphrodite, a possibility. In a way, it is an act of making the unconscious conscious and working with it. So these are posters from two past conferences that we've had. Yes, and here there's also a few photos of previous courses that we are still giving. So courses on poetic inquiry, Jungian arts-based research, collaborative, imaginative engagement in research, and lots of other writing, and arts-based research courses that deal both with generating knowledge and at the same time being creative and developing the self. In Jungian arts-based research, we also focus on mending the subject-object split, which is what transdisciplinarity does. And as Susan Rowland says, art making becomes knowledge making. So in arts-based research, we make a work of art and we research through the making of that work of art. So that, again, doing the art is doing the research. And arts-based researchers are not doing research about the art, but they are doing art, which is the research, and which is also a knowledge tool. Just like Pygmalion was not merely sensing the presence of and learning about his dream partner or perfect woman, but he was also creating her, doing the art along with this so-called research. But at the same time, later on, when the artifact came into being as a life, new life into the world, she became the teacher and she became the source of knowledge. So I'm going to run through these. So this is Niculescu, Basarab Niculescu, and this is his book, From Modernity to Cosmodernity, that speaks about transdisciplinarity. And I'm going to quickly quote Sandra Faulkner on poetic inquiry. So, and she speaks about poetry and research and says that it is a way to tap into universality and radical subjectivity. So poetic inquiry is also something that we value very highly at the LABRC, because writing poetry, just like creating Galatea, is knowledge forming. And that's one of the courses on engaging with images, to show how ekphrasis is also a means and method to create knowledge and fun at the same time. And finally, I'm going to conclude by, I'll mention Ovid first, explaining how the statue is simultaneously a symbol for art and nature, which in Jungian arts-based research would be a symbol for matter and psyche, because art is matter and psyche is nature. So Galatea represents this transdisciplinary union of psyche and matter, eliminating otherness between the two. Also, Joseph Solodov describes the relationship. I'm out of time, but I'm almost done. When he writes that this is the story about the relation between art, which is made by human skill, and nature, that which is born. So I hope that Pygmalion's awakening not only explored the transformative powers of arts-based research, but I hope that it also displayed how arts-based research aligns seamlessly with Kosmos Institute's mission to foster holistic, integrative approaches to knowledge and learning. And the presentation's emphasis on dissolving otherness through artistic creation mirrors the Institute's commitment to transcending traditional disciplinary boundaries and embracing diverse ways of knowing. So the Pygmalion myth, as reimagined in this context, serves as a powerful metaphor for the unification of creator and creation, subject and object, a core principle in both arts-based research and Kosmos Institute's educational model. So happy birthday, Kosmos Institute, and thank you so much for having me with you today. And that's it.